but I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm hearing a lot of common themes through this evening. I'm hearing a lot about student agency. I'm hearing a lot about leveraging the power of technology. I'm hearing a lot about mindfulness and getting students to really tap into what are their individual strengths. And all of that, though, I want to add another layer, rather. It's thinking about reading and thinking about the power of thinking. So I came across this phenomenal website called nearpod.com, and if anybody wants to log in, there are QR codes on your tables, but this is a program that will enable you to really leverage the power of technology in your classrooms, to engage students in your classrooms, to incorporate VR, all sorts of interactivity, and really bring them in and give them a say in their own learning. So if you're interested, use the QR code or just go to nearpod.com, and to join the session, there's the code that you need to join. So I'm the mother of 5. Over the last 32 years, I have read quite a few books aloud, and in my 20 plus years of teaching, I've read quite a few books. And I also have 2 children who struggled with reading and dyslexia. So reading has always been a passion of mine, both professionally and personally. And recent studies in education, not in education, but in brain science, have really given me so much more to think about as an educator in terms of how does the brain work? How does the brain learn to read? So I'd like you to go, actually I meant to delete this. We're just going to delete that. Okay. So the problem is we all use reading strategies with our kids. Whether you are reading a child a picture book on your lap, you're asking them to engage with the pictures, whatever subject you're teaching in school, reading is fundamental. And you need to be able to teach kids reading strategies in order to make that reading, give them their agency and make that reading part of their own learning. And as a few other students, teachers here, presenters here, I work at an elite private girls' school. I'm at the lower school level. And we use a workshop model for reading and writing, which again gives students agency, gives them a lot of choice. It involves a lot of one-on-one conferencing with the students and strategic instruction based on that conferencing, and yet their reading comprehension is still not where we would like it to be. And as one of our teachers says, a lot of this is due to their lack of background knowledge. They just haven't been on this planet long enough to accumulate a base content of knowledge with which to really relate to anything that they read. And in my ideal world, we would be able to give kids strategies that they would actually use to improve their reading comprehension and give them that ability to take control over their own learning. Another thing that I have done, another passion of mine, is Project Zero out of Harvard School of Education. And this was kind of an aha moment. Perfect. So I'm going to play just 48 seconds, Irby, of this video and let you hear what Project Zero has to say.
What can we as educators do to help students become better thinkers? One might assume that a good place to start is to teach thinking skills. But is teaching skills enough? We often miss opportunities to use the skills we have simply by not noticing times when they might be useful. Good thinkers not only know how to think creatively, critically, and deeply, they actually do it. They have a repertoire of thinking moves to draw on, they're inclined to use them, and they're sensitive to the times when thinking would be helpful. In other words, they're in the habit of observing, analyzing, and questioning.
Right there, we can stop. Great. So remember those 3 words. So observing, analyzing, and questioning. Giving kids the tools they need to do those 3 things and have them so internalize those mechanisms that they're doing it just naturally. So I thought, especially at my level, teaching elementary students, given their lack of background knowledge, how can using these thinking routines with them offset that lack of background knowledge? I think you may have to advance it, Irving. Thanks. And I hoped it would, because I love using the thinking routines. I've used them myself, professionally and personally, and I was really excited to try this out with the kids. So here's the poll that I would like you to do, if anybody is logged in. So just think for a minute, what comprehension strategies do you actually observe your students using? We teach them a lot of strategies, but which ones are they actually actively using? Just give you about 10 seconds. So rereading comes in a lot, and envisioning comes in a lot, okay, at least for the two people that responded, which is fine, because isn't that funny, rereading. When I was doing this study, that was the skill that most children said that they were using, that they at least were aware that they were using. But they were rereading. That's like when I see a child putting a search string into a search engine, and they just keep hitting search, search, search. Regardless of what the results are, regardless of if the results are related to what they're doing, they're rereading, but what are they rereading for? Are they really understanding what they are reading? And as I did this investigation, it definitely becomes obvious, and at least in a lot of the studies that I read, that the metacognitive process has a powerful role in reading comprehension. And we've talked about this, being aware of your own thinking. Connecting new information is essential, and that's where background knowledge comes in. That a student is not going to be able to infer from what they've read, they're not going to be able to make connections if they don't have something to hook it onto. And I think one of the most powerful things I found links back to the Project Zero, because a lot of the Project Zero thinking routines start with an image and have a child observe an image and analyze that image. Let's see. I just want to quote this directly. From the study, it said that non-lingual representations support dual coding of stimuli and increases neural activity. So that got me really excited, thinking I might be onto something here. And it was a very simple layout for the experiment. 2 classes, each was the control for the other. One class would do the routine, read the article, and then take a quiz. Another class would just read the article and take the quiz. We used a couple different thinking routines. One is called See, Think, Wonder. And the other one that I used with the 4th grade class is called See, Connect. See, Categorize, Connect, and Wonder, which gave them a little bit more interactivity with their group. So I want you to just try this See, Think, Wonder strategy. For 10 seconds, just think to yourself, what do you actually observe on that screen? Then try to make some inferences. What do you think your observations mean? I see 4 individuals in that picture. That would be one observation. My inference meaning maybe they're sitting kind of close together, maybe they know each other. And then the last step, I'm wondering, well, why are they all together? So imagine doing this with 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. You get some pretty amazing ideas and things that they see, things that they focus on. So this is what it looks like. So they love using Post-it notes, so they went absolutely wild. We get Post-it notes, we get our own Post-it notes. But they had to observe different pictures of a Native American adobe village and just make some observations and figure out what this all means. They had no prior knowledge about this at all. This is one that I used with the 4th grade, where they were looking at this image of 2 African Americans, And again, making some observations, connecting their observations, and coming up with questions. Well, the results were inconsistent. Third grade performed a little bit better than fourth grade, but overall and there was definitely greater impact with the open-ended questions. I did notice an impact of visual literacy on even their use of the visible thinking routine. So kids who had a hard time reading, they weren't able to distinguish features within a picture, which affected their use of the thinking routine. And as I said before, the number one strategy they used was just rereading. So this shows you that third grade, there was definitely a greater difference in the impact, not so much on fourth grade. There were lots of ways to improve this. We've all mentioned the lack of time. I've never created a study like this before, so I wasn't quite sure about the efficacy of the quiz. But I do think that there's a lot that we can learn from this in terms of explicitly teaching these thinking routines, getting administrative buy-in. I think the students might have performed a lot better and benefited from it if they'd had more experience with it. Every time I came into the room, the engagement shot up 100%. The kids could not wait to participate in these routines. The call for action, I think, is that we do need to teach our kids to be aware of their own thinking in the classroom. As leaders at the school level, we've got to foster more constructivist teaching in our classroom. And finally, at the policymakers, we have to move away from textbook-based curricula, I think, to give teachers the freedom to use a lot of the practices that we have talked about and give students agency and not just have them read chapter after chapter and answer the questions at the end of the chapter. I want to leave you with this quote from Confucius, one of our great thinkers of all time. So reading without thinking and thinking without reading, the two are intricately connected. Thank you.